fellowship on our website and our Facebook page. And please take a moment to look through your order of service this morning and notice some of the upcoming events that are going to be happening this next month. And along those same lines, we have Jane Park to give us an announcement on one of those.
I told Shar I'd be very brief. This is one of our church's biggest community events. Next Saturday is the Emerald Coast Pride event. And we always have a great UUFEC showing, and I'm hoping that will continue getting an announcement in our e-news. So I have flyers, I have all the details. I'm not going to give you all the details now, but please come find me. I'll hand these out, and let's make sure our local community knows we are there for them. Thank you.
Thank you, Jane. After our service, of course, everyone is invited to come and have some light refreshments and coffee at the rear of the sanctuary. And now, Nancy will play our prelude that prepares us for our service. Robin, is Robin here today? Yes. Will you come up, Robin, and light our chalice for us?
Called by loss, called by peace, called by war, by the suffering we inflict and what we endure. When minds across borders fail to reason and compromise, we come this day called by loss, the deaths of those who serve in our name, those whose lives end before their natural course, in service to a cause greater than their own. We come this day called by hope. Hope that we will, in some season, struggle. We can never stay or rest.
Our country will observe Memorial Day, a day we honor those who have given their lives for our country throughout history. The origins of this national holiday hark back to May 5th, 1865, when freed slaves gathered in Charleston, South Carolina after the Civil War ended. They wished to express their gratitude to Union soldiers who had died during the war for their freedom. On that day, Major John A. Logan established Decoration Day to be celebrated on May 30th. The holiday was to honor the war dead by decorating their graves with flowers. After World War II, the name Memorial Day was used more commonly. And in 1967, the federal government formally adopted the name and established Memorial Day as the last Monday in May. Memorial Day is a complicated one for many Unitarian Universalists. Each of us has our own history and different feelings about what it represents. Our sixth UU principle, to affirm the goal of world community, peace, liberty, and justice, often seems in conflict with war. How do we support the truths when you oppose war? Is there such a thing as a just war? And what about women in the military? Ever since the American Revolutionary War, women have played an important role in the military, including sacrificing their lives for their country. Later this morning, one of our UUFEC members, Jacquelyn Perr, will share her perspective on the women who serve their country in the military. Jackie is a wife, mother, and U.S. Air Force major in the Air Force Reserves. At 11:15, I invite you to join me and Jackie at the front here to share our personal reflections on the meaning of Memorial Day. And now, I ask you to stand if you are able, and to please join us, everyone, in the singing of our first hymn. This is my song. It's number 159 in your gray hymnal, and it will also be shown on the screen behind me. I believe that Miss Holly has a story for us. Will the children, if you'd like to come up and get a front row seat, come on up.
Good morning. I'm Holly Lohmiller, the Director of Religious Exploration. Happy to be here with all of you today. I have a book to share called Intersection Allies. We Make Room for All by Chelsea Johnson, Latoya Council, and Carolyn Choi. Illustrations by Ashley Seal Smith. This book has words that I have practiced, but I cannot yet pronounce the way they're supposed to be pronounced. But here's the thing, I didn't want anybody to miss out on this really good book because I was worried about being perfect. We don't need to be perfect, we just need to show up, yeah? Intersection allies, we make room for all. To each other, we are better together. Witness the lives of a bold group of friends. If one is in need, another defends. Age is one trait that each of them share, but kids' lives are unique, as you will soon be aware. Each child has a story and their own point of view, filled with passion and power, just like you. And you, and you, and you. My name is Alejandra, but I go by Allie. I use a chair, but it doesn't define me. Instead, it allows me to zip, glide, and play. When I need to get through, friends help me make a way. Where there is room for some, we make room for all. Friends can be allies, no matter how small. Hello, I'm Parker. After school every day, Allie's family takes care of us both while we play. My mom works hard to provide for me. Her love's the source of our stability. Not toys or money, nor treasures untold, community care is more precious than gold. Skirts and frills are cute, I suppose, but my superhero cape is more cape than those bows. Some may be confused that a kid like me can wear what I want and be proud. This makes me happy. And be proud and carefree. My friends defend my choices and place. A bathroom, like all rooms, should be a safe place. My name is Adila, and just like Kate, what I wear inspires endless debate. Some give, some chant, some sing, some pray. My hijab is my choice. You can choose your own way. The clothes that you wear never justify hatred. Clothes can be playful, simple, or sacred. Covered, adorned, or with casual flair, my body's my own. I dress it with care. My name is Nia, and with what's on the news, it is easy to be frightened or sing the blues. For her, for them, for him, and for me, we all deserve to breathe and be free. The color of our skin is no reason to hide. We protest for safety, equality, and pride. Our friends join along in solidarity and love. This is the stuff that allies are made of. Safety also includes our trees and air, the land we have called home, our places of prayer. I am Dakota, and like my ancestors, my tribe and I are water protectors. From profit and power, we stand up to preserve our nations, our cultures, and the respect we deserve. Here we go. My name is Gloria. Y tengo 7 años. After school, it's to La Frutera I go. Trabajo cada día junto a mi madre. Vendemos pina dulce y mangoes con chile. My language and savvy allow us to thrive. I've got hopes and dreams and skills and drive. Working together makes us both more secure. I am a daughter, a partner, and an entrepreneur. My name is Hee-jung, and I was born in Seoul. I moved here when I was 5 years old. I'm part of what's called the 1.5 generation. My parents and I span 2 different nations. Like Gloria, I am a help to my mother by translating for her one word to another. When the landlord tells mom, "You can pay me next Friday," I repeat in Korean, "Oma rentu dayam ju jiomare neado donare." We navigate life in our new home together. because kids have the skills to make every day better. My name is Yuri, and I am new to this place. Hee-jung's family welcomed me with love and with grace. Finding refuge meant traveling far from home. I sailed, I flew, I rode, and I roamed. Escaping violence, war, heartache, and intrusion, we came to this nation seeking dreams and inclusion. From near, from far, from here, from there, we are more than our origins. We all deserve care. Race, religion, citizenship, class, and ability. Each of these intersects to form identity. Age, gender, size, and skin color too can make living life different. Barriers and biases are often to blame. Small. Let's go have some fun together. Thank you for being patient with me when I got all of my feelings.
I think you did very well. We'll sing the children out now. Well, that story was just a good setting for our next segment of our worship on sharing of joys and concerns. You're now invited to come forth On this eve of Memorial Day, retired Air Force Lieutenant Colonel Blake Coleman Farley will lead us in a UU prayer, which will be followed by a brief silent meditation.
This prayer comes to us from the Reverend Heather K. Januels, and she, like many of us, came from another faith, and she actually was an associate minister for 10 years at Cedar Lane Unitarian Universalist Church, where I grew up as a member. We remember. Spirit of love and life, God of memory, mourning, and history, bring before us the truths of serving in war. Bring before us, in compassion and in gratitude, those who faced violence so we may know peace. We remember these sacrifices through monuments. We remember these names carved into stone. Inscribe them in our hearts this day. Inscribe them in our conscience every day. So, like the stones that bear their names, freedom from violence may endure in our nation and around the world.
We have a tradition in this fellowship to share the cash offerings on Sunday and undesignated checks with a local charity. This month, we are supporting Youth Village in Fort Walton Beach. It provides a safe place for children ages 3 to 5. If you're paying your pledge today with a check, please write check on your memo line, and please be as generous as you're able. And will the greeters now come forth and accept the donations? Our speaker today, Major Jacquelyn Perr, is no stranger to the military. In her own words, she grew up as a military brat and graduated from DoD High School on Edward Air Force Base on the Mojave Desert. She attended the U.S. Air Force Academy, graduating in 2005 and earning a commission as an aircraft maintenance officer. She has served on active duty at several Air Force bases, including Eglin Air Force Base. She, her husband, Christopher, and 2 children, Robin and Hugo, moved to Niceville in 2016. Jackie took a position at Duke Airfield in the 919th Special Operations Wing. She currently serves as Executive Officer with the 859th Special Operations Squadron. We welcome Jackie to our pulpit.
Put these right here, because if I have them ready, I won't need them. Thank you, Shar. Good morning. Hello. My name is Jackie, and as Shar said, I'm a major in the Air Force stationed up at Duke. I'm an executive officer for the 859th Special Operations Squadron. We are a non-standard aviation unit, which basically means we specialize in getting in and out of tough places that other units with more traditional airframes struggle to manage. We have folks deployed 24/7, 365 days of the year. I'm wearing my uniform today in spirit of Memorial Day tomorrow, but it's important to note that anything and everything can be difficult for some. And I want to ensure everyone knows that it is welcome and you are okay to do what you need to do, whether it be crying or going and taking a break for a little bit. Or if you need a tissue, raise your hand and maybe I can chuck it to you. I should have left some with my mother. I do want to thank my mom and dad, Robin and Gary, for coming out and listening to me speak today. And my husband, Chris, your guys' presence is really important to me. Thanks. My husband is an Air Force veteran, and so is my dad. As Shar was saying, I grew up in the military, so when she asked me to speak today, I was like, sure. I've done this for 40 years. Memorial Day is central to my being. I grew up knowing the cost some military members and their families must pay. I remember as a kid having friends who lost parents. I remember my mother worrying my father wouldn't come home. I've lost classmates. My younger brother, thankfully, did not lose his life in Afghanistan when he deployed there as an Army infantryman years ago, a young lieutenant with his platoon. But he did not come back the same. I think the lighthearted, haphazard boy I grew up with died in an ambush along with the men he was responsible for bringing home. He carries their heavy memory. I can see their weight in the hunch of his shoulders. I can hear it in the terseness of his speech whenever he talks in his Army voice, as I know my parents and Chris are familiar with. Army, 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 Army. That's our Danny. I'm sure he'll be thinking of his guys tomorrow, as will I. So for me to honor his men as well as others we've lost among this congregation who support the military, even though we're not quite so sure about the war part, I thought not only would be a great honor, but kind of easy. And then Shar asked me very appropriately if I could tie in our UU principles, specifically number 1 and number 6. Might not be as easy as I first thought. As a Unitarian Universalist, I promote 1, the inherent worth and dignity of every person, and number 6, the goal of world community with peace, liberty, and justice for all. As an American airman, I fly, fight, and win. Air power, anytime, anywhere. Dignity of every person, fight, peace for all, power, anytime. These words seem a little less than synonymous. This is certainly not a new tension either. But how can I connect these seemingly incongruent ideologies of peace and war within myself as a Unitarian Universalist and as a staunch patriot? How can I affirm worth and dignity in every person and also support violence, sometimes killing? I'll be honest, I've never directly harmed, much less killed anyone in all my years of service. I am not the tip of the spear by any means, but I am most certainly a finger or a thumb holding that spear, helping to thrust it at times. Of course, it's not random stabs into the darkness on a whim. We engage in warfare only after ordered to do so by our civilian-led government in the pursuit of liberty and justice for all. That government is made up of people who are elected by everyday citizens like the ones in this room. We are a weapon of the collective will of the American people. And what's more, we're a completely voluntary service. No one serving in our military was drafted against their will. We have all put our hands up and said, "Send me to war so that my home may live in peace." Furthermore, there are laws, rules of engagement, as well as training we must follow to protect non-combatants and limit unnecessarily violence, pain, and suffering. Even the weaponry we develop is geared to be more precise, minimize casualties, and ensure human dignity where we can. But still, there is a tension that has always existed inside of me. As a 17-year-old, joining the Air Force felt a little bit like shooting Old Yeller. If there was an awful thing to be done, then the work of the military would bring clarity to my many questions. After 23 years, I can say it has not. In fact, it's probably only spurred more questions. And I don't know about you, but whenever I have existential questions like these, I take great comfort in reading not Jesus or even Oprah, but in fossil records. And I know Odin will appreciate this. Prehistoric paleontologic studies done upon bones and fossils found from our ancestors millions of years ago bring me great comfort. I know it sounds strange, but learning what our ancestors did and why helps me understand why I do some of the things I do. So, fossil records are where I started to look when questioning humanity's use and my participation in violence, because violence, after all, is the thing we want less of. It is the bad thing of the two, peace and war. The thing we are always trying to prevent, deter, avoid, or escape. Violence is what we want to evolve out of. I looked through scientific journals published about dig records and their findings about individual violence and collective violence among ancient human ancestors throughout the ages. I read through books written by anthropologists specializing in prehistoric tribes and their behaviors. Apparently, millions of years ago, when our evolutionary great times a billion grandparents crawled the earth, violence was normal. In fact, it was a basic tool our ancestors used every day to find food, protect themselves and their children from everything. They were far from being at the top of the food chain, scampering along tree branches no bigger than a modern-day squirrel. When considering the length of time Homo sapiens have existed, it is our UU principles that are actually quite young. Violence, pain, suffering, and killing seem to have birthed humanity's pursuit of individual dignity and peaceful communities, places like this. There's a good description of the hard daily life of one of these prehistoric creatures we come from, written by Kat Bohannon in her book Eve. In it, she describes this animal called Morganocodon, we will call her Morgie, who lived 205 million years ago, was a cross between a weasel and a mouse and no bigger than a thumb. She's not a direct ancestor, but an exemplar genus, which means the point from which important pieces of our biological makeup stem from. And I'll just read a little bit of what she says of life back then. She waited at the mouth of her burrow because the sky was still pale, streaky threads of photons refracting through clouds, the deepening blue beyond. She waited because her cells told her to. All the little clocks in her clockwork, and her eyes, and her whiskers twitching in the air, and the temperature of the dirt under her footpads. She waited because there were monsters in the world, and they waited for her too. When the night was good and dark, Morgie risked it, skittering along the ground, searching for her prey. Insects, some nearly as big as she was. She heard them before she saw them. The high-pitched hum of their wings, the wheezing tapping of their legs. Quick as that, her skinny muzzle snapped. She loved the sweet crunch of his chitinous body, loved the little dribble of fluid down her chin. She licked it off and resumed the hunt. Never safe to stop, jaws everywhere, claws and teeth. The thing that looked like a tree could be a leg. The wind in the ferns could be hot breath. So she ran and hunted and ran and hid. The wet, heavy air as a fist. She flitted over feet of dinosaurs like a grasshopper hopping an elephant's toes. She felt their low bellows, not as a sound so much as an earthquake. This was life every night for Morganocodon, she who lived under giants. Of course, we do not live under giants anymore, unless you count Taylor Swift. As a species, we seem to have tried to evolve away from the everyday scampering of Morgie in order to pursue more dignified ways of living, at least in this part of the world. There are grocery stores, so we do not have to use violence for food. We have laws, governments, and communities that enable us to relate to one another without killing each other, at least most of the time. But the individual violence Morgie used to eat and survive branched to another type of violence our ancestors grew into as they became more social creatures. Collective violence, or a violent behavior engaged in by large numbers in response to a common stimulus. War. There is evidence in our fossil records of collective violence as early as 10,000 years ago between usually warring social groups or families. Today, resolving conflicts with my neighbor by murdering them and taking their things is frowned upon, at least in this part of the world. I have HOAs, property management companies, to submit complaints to law enforcement, to call and report to, social media in which to vent my frustrations, or I can just accidentally let my dog poop in their yard. Over the ages, small collective violence has given way to large group collective violence as a mean to increase peace and minimize suffering. Warring family clans have ceded territory to warring countries, and even warring coalitions of countries. I'm sure most people in this room remember where they were and what they were doing on September 11th, 2001. I was a cadet news anchor choke over her words as she realized they were people leaping from the flames in rage, as it did for thousands of other Americans. Whoever was responsible would be held accountable. But we did not run to our garages, grab shovels and hatchets, and hop on the next plane and studied military history, leadership, and aerodynamics, quite painstakingly, I might add. We worked because our cells told the worried yet angry faces of our fellow Americans, their cheeks tear-stained. Our ears heard the strained voices of our mothers, hoarse from crying. Our noses smelled the hot metal and burning sheetrock of the Pentagon and the Twin Towers. As a force, we used our own precise yet violent behavior to respond to those who attacked us, and we went to war. Our war on terrorism in the 2000s was far from perfect, and yet entirely different than conflicts that had come before it. Certainly when compared to the devastation of World War II and how we responded to Japan's attacks on Pearl Harbor less than 100 years earlier, it was clear to see we were evolving how we engaged in warfare. And our military devoted time marches on. We are continuing to evolve when we feel the pain brought on by violence and decide we don't want the next generation to have to endure the same. We evolve when people like you and me come to places like this because we want a better future with peace, liberty, and justice for all. We evolve when we bear arms because we'd rather do the awful thing with compassion than to trust it to someone who may not. We evolve when we leave our homes and families because keeping the fight on the other side of the globe will at least ensure peace here. We evolve when we choose to devote our Sunday service to fallen brothers and sisters. We evolve when we speak their names and let ourselves feel the sting of their loss. I invite you to join me in speaking or thinking the names of those you know who never made it out of uniform. Bill Anderson, Taryn Robinson, Dale Walters, Mark McDowell, Steve Sundrum, Rosalind Schulte, Casey Scow. May they rest in peace, and may the pain of their loss spur within us a rededication toward evolving into a more peaceful tomorrow.
Thank you, Jackie. And now, join us in singing our closing hymn, Peace, the Perfect Word. after the words, a quiet, and after the songs, a silence. After the crowd, only the memory recalls the gathering. Peace and justice have need of you after the words, the music, and the gathering. God grant you the depth for dedication to justice. God grant you the will to be apostle of peace. Please stay, remain seated for the postlude. I'd like to thank everyone who participated in this service today, for Jackie and Denny and Blake. And I don't want to forget Adam back there. What would we do without Adam and our tech people, right? Enjoy minutes. Jackie and I will be up here, and we'll reflect a little bit on what she has spoken today, and also our own personal reflections on this important holiday. Thank you.